Welcome to the EOB Podcast, where we talk about the weekend box office and the new openings this week. I'm Bino, and joining me is Sen Dong. So Sen, welcome back. I hope you're feeling much better.
Yeah, I'm fully recovered, but apparently the flu season, the flu wave has gone to the Bay Area.
I don't know. I caught something as well, so I'm not sure if it's the flu or the cold. My nose is stuffy. You can hear me coughing. You will hear me coughing at some point.
Right.
Like you say, it could be. I don't think it's the flu because I don't have the fever and chills.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I think it's some sort of respiratory thing going on. So you got it bad that time. So that's why you weren't able to be here last podcast. There's only the Smurfs, The Lost Village, that was out. And then there's the comedy Going in Style.
Right.
And another faith-based movie, The Case for Christ. Yeah, those were the three new wide releases that was out last weekend.
Mm.
And I was kind of off on some, especially the Smurfs movie.
Oh,
But we'll get to that. How about we jump right in to the box office, since we're not, maybe you recover, but I guess we're not, we're still under the weather a bit.
yeah.
So let's try to push this through and get some rest.
All
All right. Okay, let's start off The Boss Baby. It came in number 1 over the weekend. It repeated again.
Yeah.
This is the animation by DreamWorks Animation, distributed by Fox. And I think, let's see, for us, right, we both had you said the movie would open to 40 million, and I say 35, and this movie opened to 50 million, beating out Beauty and the Beast for the top spot during its opening weekend.
Yeah.
And for the second weekend, it repeated as the top movie with 26.3 million.
So I was at least in the ballpark, not super off, 10 million off, but kind of in the
Like me,
ballpark.
I was
Yeah.
35. Yeah, I was way
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, not too far. But the reviews were only passable. It's 52% on Rotten Tomatoes. If you compare it to some of the recent animated features from the competing studios like Illumination, Disney, Pixar, it's kind of on the lower end of the spectrum. But it apparently appeals and is doing pretty well with its target audience.
But you have to say that, as I said, like DreamWorks Animation has, its fans, right?
Yeah.
And The Boss Baby is kind of like, it's just like an original creation right there. And this opening is similar to its other original animation, like Home. The Home opened to 52 million, and The Boss Baby opened to 50. So which is, right there.
Right, yeah. Although I'm not sure if this will have the kind of legs as Home, though. I think Home eventually went on to do 170 or 180 million domestically.
177.
Okay, yeah. So I'm not sure if Boss Baby, by how much it dropped this week, will have that kind of legs to eventually, make another 90 million. Maybe, but we're not sure.
Well, you could say that Smurfs grabbed a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Box office.
All right, we'll get to that.
Oh, right. We'll get to that.
So I guess if Boss Baby continues the DreamWorks recent trend of they kind of open decent. They do decently well. They also did Trolls too, right? DreamWorks.
Yes, they did. Yep.
Yeah. So they kind of open in the 40 to 50 million range, and then they might do 150 to 200 million. But that seems to be on the higher end now for DreamWorks. Whereas in the Shrek days, Shrek and Madagascar, they can make from 300 to 400 million. So it seems like those days have passed and gone for DreamWorks, and now their good range seems to be 150 to 200 million range, which is still pretty good as long as they budget their films accordingly.
Yeah, I think their budget is just like a tad over 100 million. I don't think they're like over 200 like Pixar's.
Yeah.
Or Disney's.
Right.
But like I say, they're opening like in the 50s, and worldwide the brand is still strong, and they're gonna make money. And as long as they wait it out until they get a good series going, right?
They have decent series like How to Train Your Dragon, or How to Train a Dragon, or How to Train Your Dragon.
How to Train Your Dragon, yeah.
Okay, Your Dragon. Okay, and they have Crude. They close in the 200 domestic range, which is pretty good. I mean, unless you're Pixar or Illumination or Disney Animation, that's pretty good. 200 million range.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Going back to Home, right? Look, the Home, the second weekend, the drop off was 48%.
Oh, okay. So this can have a chance to eventually get up to the 180 million range.
Yeah, 48%, 47%, which is similar, right? So it
Yeah,
can go there. Like we said, I mean, DreamWorks movie, or, kind of relatively leggy.
yeah. I guess family films in general are pretty leggy.
Right. And,
Yeah.
when it first opened, I don't think we were that high on home, right? Because
No,
it
we
seems,
weren't.
yeah. And then it went on to surprise us. And I
Yeah.
think the Boss Baby might be the same because, like, when you repeat it at number one, that means, there is an
Actually,
appeal there.
I might have been a little bit high on it because I remember saying that it's pretty much the Minions before the actual Minions movie came out.
Yeah, let's not go back because we might
Okay.
contradict ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay, we
Let-
weren't that high on it. Let's
yeah,
continue.
let's
Let's go
assume
with
that
your
we were
narrative.
both yeah,
Yeah.
we're there, we're there.
Yeah.
And then also the trend too I noticed is that, like I said, they're tending toward more conventional art style.
Um,
I have to get
I'm
that
not
in.
sure. Maybe.
I have to get that in.
I mean, like from Shrek and Ants, because originally DreamWorks Animation was PDI, and they're the animation studio that made Ants, which is, if you look at the animation style, a lot of it is very was it anamorphic. It's kind of like very human, the facial features and everything, because they were doing a lot of motion capture and they cleaned it up later. So because they were doing a lot of facial motion capture, most of their character design tends to be they look very human-like in terms of facial features and mostly in terms of facial features.
Right. Which is kind of like more kind of realistic, more adult-like, right? Whereas
Right.
the other animation is more like kid-like, like big head, small body, short
Yeah.
arms,
Well,
kind of
it's
like the
interesting
Boss Baby.
because PDI went more with the realistic approach. And Pixar at the time went with the more animated approach, which is exaggerated movements, exaggerated expressions, more of the traditional animation style.
Yeah, which is kind of like the classical animation, right?
Yeah,
You see it
classical.
with
Yeah,
the Looney Tunes and the
yeah,
past like Donald Duck's, Mickey
yeah,
Mouse animations, those kind of things. The,
yeah.
the way that animation was taught.
Yeah, yeah. The technology kind of limited them. Well, I'm not sure if it limited them, but it kind of pushed them into the more realistic approach because they were experimenting with facial motion capture. They had to do a more realistic approach. It seems like as they went on, they eventually kind of slowly moved away from that approach into more cartoony, more traditional animation, more exaggerated facial expressions and whatnot. You're right though, since the very beginning, they kind of move on from the motion capture approach. And I'm not sure, if it's benefited them or not because they're earlier. Well, I mean, from Shrek when they move on to Madagascar. Madagascar was very, in terms of character design, was way more of the traditional approach. Very cartoony, very exaggerated expressions, exaggerated movements. It was very different, but it's not the cutesy Disney approach. Character design was more angular and pretty unique, I thought, at the time.
Yeah, sure, but those were
Yeah,
were animals, right?
yeah.
They can go that route, but for something that's
Well, not
feature a lot of humans like the Boss Baby, right? They went. I think they're trending now toward more the round approach, right? With the
yeah,
other
yeah,
animation
they were.
studios.
But I think even then, I don't think it's because of the animals. Because when PDI before DreamWorks acquired them, they did ants, and they went with the same approach, which is all the ants characters their faces look very human.
Yeah.
It was more of an approach that they decided after Shrek to kind of just made it more cartoony. It went more traditional.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. It's like they try that one, and I'm not sure if the market said, hey, go with the other approach, like
It seemed
what
like both
people are used to.
approach worked. I mean, like Shrek is still their highest grossing, most commercial franchise, and then the Madagascar series, I think, is their second most profitable franchise. In terms of character design, they're completely opposites.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just saying. I'm just noticing this thing. They're going more toward the Pixar's
Yeah, more cutesy, more
style.
rounded,
Yeah.
more conventional.
Right.
Which is, I'm not sure because, when they did Shrek, even though they look very human, it was very unique looking in terms of animation because animation tends to be like what we see nowadays, really rounded, cutesy characters. And then Madagascar, when it first came out, even though it wasn't that well reviewed, I really liked the character design because it was, it wasn't super humanoid and it wasn't like your conventional animation where it's super cutesy and everything. It was very angular and very unique looking, like you said. But then gradually, it seems like especially after they started working with Fox, it went more conventional. And I'm not sure if it's going to help them or not.
Their target audience are really the family crowd with parents and kids, and I think they tend to gravitate toward the familiar, right?
Yeah. Although whether or not it's helping them, I'm not sure because the first two biggest franchises were very unique looking character designs.
Okay, let's put it this way. It's not hurting them. It's not hurting them.
Yeah, it's not hurting them, but it doesn't look like it's helping them.
Well, I think with this one, they're getting on even footing with the other animation studios. Saying that, hey, we look
we
the same.
can do cute too.
Yeah, we can do cute too. Like
yeah, but I'm not sure if it's gonna separate them from the crowd.
Yeah, but then that's where the other parts comes in. It's where the story and the characters, right? Then they have to
But that's my saying though. I'm not sure if it was the character design. Like, can you usually you want to stay out of the crowd. You want to be unique and stand out in the crowd. But by changing their character design to something that's more conventional, they're not really standing out. They're more like if you watch The Boss Baby, you can't say that this is a DreamWorks production because it doesn't have that uniqueness to it.
Well, I'll give you that because the DreamWorks brand is not evident.
Yeah, now it looks like you can't tell if it's Illumination or if it's Pixar or if it's Pixar does have a unique look to it, but you can't tell if it's Illumination or if it's Fox's other animation studio. I think Blue Sky.
They did the Ice Age movies, yeah.
Yeah, because now it looks like any other in terms of the character design, you can't tell them apart anymore. Sure, it's doing decent, but it's not doing Shrek or Madagascar business.
Well, sure. Maybe that's the strategy right now. It's like to blend in with the other studios, saying, "Hey, we're not DreamWorks anymore. We're kind of like the other, major studios," and then start from there, and then separate themselves, later. All right. Then how about we leave it at that?
Yeah.
When it comes to DreamWorks, we're always picking on them because it's from the belief that they could do so much better, right?
Well, we want to say they can do so much better because they did better in the past.
Right.
Yeah, they did so much better in the past.
Yeah, and we're just pointing out some of the reasons why we think they kind of fell off the tracks.
Well, yeah, they kind of fell off the track.
All right. Okay, so let's leave it at that for now. Let's move on to number 2. Beauty and the Beast. It pulled in 25 million over the weekend. Domestic gross right now is 432 million. Worldwide, it's doing 977. It's gonna cross 1 billion at some point worldwide. And as you said, right, it's gonna probably cross 500 million domestic.
Looks like it.
Yeah, and the drop off is only about 45% from the previous weekend. So, it's continuing to go on. And you say the Boss Baby, the huge drop off, hey, it's getting competition from Beauty and the Beast as well. And some from Smurfs, but as you say, we'll get to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, in this fourth weekend, it's still pulling in 25 million. So, hey, they're on 500 million domestic. It's pretty good.
Yeah, with Disney.
Yeah. Their live action adaptation, and as we said, this is the crown jewel in the fairy tales, fairy tale movies. So there you go.
The future looks really, really good in terms of these live action adaptations of their animated classics.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is like they got this formula down already, right? I mean, their animation, at the minimum, they could just follow closely, the animated movies, right? They just translate that into live action, and they got a hit on their hands, right? And anything they add on top of that is just like gravy. Okay, how about we move on to number 3, which is one of the new wide releases last weekend. Smurfs: The Lost Village. It pulled in 14 million over the weekend. Guess how much I think it could open to?
I'm not sure. 30?
Yeah, I say somewhere in the 25 to 30 million range. And a bit off there.
Right, because the first one did open nearly to 36 million, and then the second one dropped off really badly. Like it opened to only 17.5 million, and it did only 71 million domestically, which is about half of what the first film did. But I mean, worldwide, it continued to do, I mean, solid business. The second one did nearly 350 million worldwide, which is why we're seeing a sequel. But that's almost like half of what the first film did. So you know that there's a steep drop off. And these films have never been well reviewed. Smurfs, the latest one, at 40%, is actually probably the highest, the best reviewed film of the franchise.
Right. Yeah, I'll give you my reasoning why I thought it could do better.
Oh, okay.
It's because number one, they I guess got rid of the human element, right? Neil Patrick Harris is not there anymore. They're going straight animation, and I thought that would be closer to the cartoons on TV. And I said that for a children's movie the standards are lower because hey, as long as it appeals to kids, or parents would want to bring the kids to watch it, but apparently not.
Right. I mean, this one has the same kind of drop off as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. The first film did super well, and then the second film just fell off the cliff. And it seems like it's the same thing with the Smurfs. And I'm surprised by it that it even opened to 14 million because the second film only did 17.5 million. I thought this one would do even worse. And it has that same kind of trend where it seems like people definitely went to see the first film for the nostalgia factor, and then they don't care afterwards. And these films aren't good enough to attract anyone outside of that group.
Yeah, I thought kicking the humans out would be better, would rejuvenate the brand, but I guess not.
Yeah, but it also has, like you mentioned earlier, a lot of competition from Beauty and the Beast, from the Boss Baby, and still from Power Rangers. So there's a lot of competition for a franchise that dropped off so much in the second film. Even though this is probably considered still poorly reviewed, still considered a bad film, even though it's the best review of the series, that wasn't enough to draw a bigger crowd.
Right, I guess the thing is like maybe the Smurfs animation is not on TV anymore, so maybe that's why there's this brand erosion right there. Is because people or kids really don't know about the Smurfs outside of what's going on advertising.
Right, yeah, that could be right too. That could be a huge factor, and so that's why the only people who thinks of Smurfs are their parents because that's we grew up with it. And then after the first film, we don't feel like watching anymore. I mean, if the first film was better, maybe, but the first film was pretty terrible.
Well, because of the human elements, right?
Yeah, and the drop off is also very similar to the Chipmunks films. The first film did really well. The second film dropped off a lot, and then the audience erosion continues film after film, but because these films made so much money after the first film and they're relatively cheap to produce, they still make a decent enough profit. Hey, despite the drop off, they're still making money, and that's why we're seeing more of it.
Right. And for this movie, The Lost Village, the production budget is 60 million. Worldwide right now, it's at 56 million.
Yeah, if the trend continues in the foreign market, this could still do well enough that they would make a profit on it.
Yeah, it depends on how well it does overseas because, hey, we could see another Smurfs movie.
Right. Just like the Ice Age movies.
Yeah.
The audience erosion continues to domestically, but worldwide is still doing really well.
Right. All right, let's move on to number 4, which is Going in Style. It's the other wide release starring Morgan Freeman, Michael Caine, Alan Arkin. A movie about 3 old guys trying to rob a bank.
Oh, right.
And, comedy ensues. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
This movie pulled in 12.5 million over the weekend. And it's about where I thought it would open to. I said somewhere in the 10 to 15 million range because of, who's in it.
Right. And it's directed by Zach Braff. Surprisingly, Well, it is a comedy, but he did Garden State, which was probably his most popular film as a director and writer. But that one has Natalie Portman, so you can't really give the success of that film to Zach Braff alone.
Let me put this way: nobody buy tickets to see Zach Braff.
The what? No. Yeah.
Or act.
All right. But you're right on the market. I think 12.5 million is pretty good, especially on a budget of just 25 million. And these kind of films and this audience, the older crowd, they tend to be pretty leggy. You could eventually do 40 to 50 million.
So, it's one of these movies where, they're saying that, hey, even though we're old, we're not dead kind of deal.
Yeah. It's one of those just kind of fun movies with these great actors, older great actors. And I'm sure the fans, the film fanatics would have liked him to be in a better movie instead of this is kind of more of a paycheck movie. We'll pay you some cash to do something fun.
Right.
Type of movie.
That takes place in Hawaii, for example. Everybody can go on a vacation.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those films. I think of course, they made it just for just for fun, just for popcorn, and they've done way better work in the past. And when you put three of these guys together, I think sinners would have hoped that they were in a better movie. But hey,
right. Well, I see this movie as kind of like the Bangladesh Hotel for action comedy.
Yeah, except
that one's kind of like romantic comedy for older people.
Yeah, except that was a better movie though. So
sure. I mean, you can't have it all.
Yeah.
But three old guys, great actors in the past and today, right?
Yeah.
For them to team up and, as you say, cash a paycheck.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's number one, cashing a paycheck, but I'm sure they probably all just want to have a little fun on the side, like, let's not do something super
it's something
serious.
For them to do together.
Yeah.
It's like, let's make a movie together kind of deal, and they did in this one.
Yeah, kind of like let's go and have a beer type of movie. Nothing serious.
Right. And like I said, open to where within my range. So I guess it's doing okay. And the budget's only 25 million. So
and they're gonna make more than that domestically.
Right. And the target group for this movie, don't usually rush out in the opening weekend to watch, so it could stay leggy in theaters.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, let's move on to number 5, which is Ghost in the Shell. It fell 60%. The drop off to pull in about 7.4 million.
Yeah, so which legitimately makes it a dud in the domestic market. At a budget of 110, it needs to at least do twice that worldwide to break even. It's at 124 million now, and the opening in China was okay. It only opened to 20 something million, which means that China's not gonna save it. I'm not sure if it opened in Japan yet. Doesn't look like it, but I'm not sure how they tend to not react well to these kind of movies. They tend to be very protective of their IP. I don't think the Godzilla movies did as well as people would expect from Japan. So I'm not sure how this will do in Japan.
Right.
I don't have high hopes in Japan.
Right. Okay.
Like the only place where I had high hopes for it was in China, and it only did okay. Like 24 million in China is only so-so.
All right. And remember during our previews, I said this movie could open to 60 million. Way off.
Yeah, way off.
Yeah, you said 25 to 30, but the movie actually opened to about 19 million.
Yeah, so below even our lowest expectations.
Oh, right, and it just seems like it could be as you said, right? It could be this weird East-West mixture that are turning people off.
I think a lot of people did say, from reading the reviews, it does seem that way. It's like the opposite of the Great Wall, where in the Great Wall you have a lot of Chinese actors trying to speak English and Matt Damon thrown in, whereas in this one you have a lot of American Western actors in a Asian setting. So there's that kind of weird mix where like instead of like let's say like remaking the Seven Samurai into what is it, the Magnificent Seven, where it's they completely changed the setting, they completely westernized it, and it works that way. Whereas Ghost in the Shell is still kind of that mishmash thing where it's Western actors in Asian costumes and setting, and so it still doesn't quite completely mesh.
Yeah, and that too, and also in the promos they didn't really go into a lot of the philosophical musing of the movie, right? They
I'm not
try
sure
to
if
make
they
it
want
into
to
like a straight action.
in trailers.
Right, right. It's kind of hard to explain, right? Kind of hard
Yeah.
to explain in 30 seconds.
Plus, there's also that controversy, the whole whitewashing controversy.
I don't think that has any effects because, like in other movies, I don't think it matters really.
I think it matters some. Like for Doctor Strange, it didn't matter as much because for Doctor Strange, it was just one. It was mainly just one character, the ancient one. Whereas this one is like almost the entire cast has been replaced. For this one, I think it matters more because it also looked kind of odd. But at the same time, had they made a better movie, because if you read most of the reviews, they said that hey, it looks magnificent, it looks great on a craftsmanship level, it's A or A plus. But they said that in terms of the story and the characters, that's a whole other matter that people just couldn't quite get into it because they don't feel for the characters, they don't feel connected to any of the characters, despite the visuals.
Yeah, and I think that matters more than the casting choices. Really, I think you feel you see in when people watch the movie and they say yeah it looks great and all, but then you don't feel anything for the characters. It looks like a kind of lifeless movie.
Yeah.
Maybe that they couldn't make the connection there. They couldn't sell that movie in that way. Because I think they're trying to go for straight action. They didn't attempt to explain the story, what the movie's about for people who are not familiar with Ghost in the Shell. And it is kind of difficult to explain, right? I mean, just for the even with the Matrix movies, right? They're selling on all the action.
Well, I
right?
mean,
But maybe that one is easier to sell than this one.
Here's the thing: the Matrix is pretty much the remake already, the live action version of Ghost in the Shell already, and it seems like that's the way you have to go. You just have to completely remake it in a completely westernized setting, whereas Ghost in the Shell is kind of a mismatch. That's how I feel. Like when I was watching The Matrix, I was like, oh, I'm watching a live action version of Ghost in the Shell because a lot of the philosophical stuff was kind of like directly lifted from the film.
Yeah, true, but that's only when you watch the movie. But when you're watching the promos to get people hooked, right? You see bullet time, you see kung fu.
Yeah, you see something original. Right,
and you're seeing all the costumes.
Yeah,
right?
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's like whatever's great and original about Ghost in the Shell has already been lifted in other movies. It wasn't like when the anime first hit video, and then if they made it, did a live action adaptation of it back then, these things might have been original, but now none of it is original anymore. We've already seen it in other films, in better films too.
Right, and I said you were underselling, underestimating the effect of that bodysuit. I guess I was wrong.
That bodysuit is kind of interesting too because then it's kind of an odd thing too because I don't know, it might feel...
That's what they're selling. That's what they're selling in the promos. It's
yeah, like, they were selling the
Scarlett
bodysuit.
Johansson in this bodysuit, but I guess people... Yeah, and again, it's not enough to bring people in.
Well, it doesn't have the Batman nipples.
Okay.
The Joe Schumacher costume.
Right. There's Ghost in the Shell, right?
Yeah.
And then this other influential anime is, Akira.
Yeah.
And they're trying to bring that to the big screen, and if Ghost in the Shell is any indication, right, it doesn't bode well for that movie. Should it come to theaters?
Yeah, it depends on which way they're gonna go. Are they gonna go in that whole mishmash thing, or are they gonna go completely? They need to like stick with one method. Either cast all Asian Americans who speak perfect English, or they completely remake it into a Western setting with Caucasian actors.
Right. I mean, they have to bring something new, right? I mean, it's just like in Ghost in the Shell, right? We've seen all these things in other movies.
Yeah.
Not too long ago, right? I should say they have to bring something new to the table, and I'm not sure how they could do it because it's all like action, special effects. It's great back then, but right now all these movies has great special effects. And the thing with like casting Asian actors, for example, right? I mean, star power matters. If you want to cast an Asian actor, you have to probably cast someone who can sell the movie. That means a famous Japanese, actress, or a famous Chinese actress, or Asian face that could speak English. And you know how tough that is, right?
Yeah.
Famous Asian actress. and if you cast someone who could do that in the States, you're basically casting a nobody, right? Because there's no really famous or Asian actress outside of a couple that they try to push here.
Yeah, I mean, they're all recognizable names on TV that it seems like they haven't tried casting. But I mean, it's one of those things. I feel like Steven Spielberg, remember when they made Memoirs of a Geisha, they cast the most well-known actresses. They, like Zhang Ziyi and Michelle Yeoh and Gong Li, and the most well-known actresses. But they were all Chinese instead of Japanese. And it did okay. It didn't do great. The reviews were middling. The box office was middling. And Steven Spielberg's comment was he thought they should have went the complete indie route and cast all unknowns and make it for cheap to do the story justice. Because he said as soon as they put the budget up, they had to cast Zhang Suzi, Michelle Yeoh, and Gong Li, people who are known to Western audiences. As soon as they put up that, I think it was like 80 million budget or whatever it is back then on the movie, they have to do that. With Akira, it might be one of these things where they have to go that route. Instead of 100 million, they might have to do a 50 or 60 million budget film and cast all unknowns. And cast, do a better mix of Asian American actors with Western actors.
Well, yeah, sure. But then again, you're doing Akira, explosions,
they can. I mean, look, they did Deadpool for 60 million. So it's possible. If they cast unknowns, it's possible because you don't have to pay anyone 20 million or 10 million or 5 million. You can get them for a couple million or less.
Maybe that's where they should go.
Yeah, and the other thing is a lot of times if they hire an indie director, they can cast all these great actors. It doesn't cost that much. Like all these great indie actors doesn't cost that much money. You can get them for $1 million or less. Maybe they should follow Steven Spielberg's advice.
Of course, which they won't, because if you're the producer of the movie, you want to catch when you're putting that much money in, you want as sure of a thing as possible, and that is casting well-known actors, right? Going the opposite direction takes balls. Well, anyway, that's Ghost in the Shell, I guess you could say bombing here. I wouldn't say it's a bomb, right? I mean, we'll see how well it does.
You know what? It can be a bomb because it didn't do that well in China, and China is super front loaded. So if it only opened to 20 million in China, that means that most it's gonna do is probably 30 million, 30 or at most 40 million max. But word of mouth doesn't look good for it. Yeah, China's not gonna save this movie. And Japan has a tendency to be protective of their IP, and they usually don't look well to adaptations of their popular products, especially something like Ghost in the Shell. So I'm not sure how they're gonna receive this film. I don't think it's gonna be that good.
All right. This is a good segue into our next movie. Talking about Japan and being protective of their IP. Power Rangers #6. It is a long-running Japanese show with the Power Rangers. They call it, I think, Super Sentai, whatever. For this movie, it's kind of a reboot of the Power Ranger movie that we've seen in the States. It pulled in over 6.2 million in its third weekend. Right now, domestic gross is 75 million, and worldwide is 117.
And it hasn't opened to some of the...
Yeah, it hasn't opened in Japan yet.
Or China, so... It's doing better than expected, but it's also very expensive, 100 million. Well, we haven't seen how well it's doing in China yet, but in other markets, it only seems to be pulling in okay numbers.
Yeah, you don't see ones that are like pulling in huge numbers, like in the UK, I think. I'm not sure how updated this thing is. It only pulled in about 2 million.
Yeah.
Is it 2 million? Oh wait, let me see. Is that or that's that? No, that's the weekend number. So in the UK, put in about 3.8 million. Elsewhere, let's see, Mexico 4.7 million.
Yeah.
So not huge grosses elsewhere. So
but it still hasn't opened in the biggest Asian markets yet, which is China, Japan, and South Korea. So we'll see how how well it does in those three territories.
Well, but as you said, right?
Japan.
Japan especially, right? They kind of want their own brand up there, right? This is Power Rangers based on their TV series, which has been westernized for the American audience, right? And now it's going back to them, and we're not sure how well that will do.
Yeah.
And for Power Rangers, it's a superhero movie. It's a superhero movie for kids, and you don't know how that will do as well. Given that, I'm sure they'll try to open up in opposite of some other children movie. So sometimes the Chinese government work in strange ways, right?
Yeah.
Setting up movies to fail.
Although I can see this movie doing decent in China.
Yeah, the thing with these Power Rangers thing is they have Chinese cast, their own TV show for Power Rangers with Chinese cast in it.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
So
it's like here they take all the action scenes and then they intercut the like their own actors into it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that would do in China as well.
Although I can see it doing well in China now.
Okay, we'll see though.
Yeah, we'll see. At its current pace, it needs to do pretty well in China. Because even at 75 million domestically so far, the budget is 110 million, which is pretty high. So it needs to do at least 200 million to break even worldwide. And then they'll make it profits on home video. And I can see this doing really well on home video.
Right. I mean, it's just like Ghost in the Shell, right? We thought, it's made for the international market as well, with this diverse cast and Scarlett Johansson leading the cast up. But it didn't do that well in China. It didn't open well in China, so could be.
But that one has a weird mix, though. But Power Rangers, especially from the trailer, it looks like it's Power Rangers in a Western setting, not this weird mix. These aren't Hollywood actors in a Asian setting, for instance, because Ghost in the Shell has that weird mix.
Okay, all right.
Something doesn't.
We'll follow up with that. We'll see when they open up in those countries.
All
right. Let's move on to number 7, Kong Skull Island. It pulled in about 5.8 million over the weekend. Domestic gross is 156. Worldwide right now stands at 534. So doing pretty well.
Yeah, overall pretty well. I think worldwide is about even with the Peter Jackson King Kong, mainly because it did so well in China.
All right, and this movie is a setup for sequels.
Godzilla
Peter Jackson
versus
one is probably not.
Kong, right?
Yeah.
King Kong.
Right. Kong versus Godzilla or Godzilla versus Kong, whichever. It's kind of like Batman versus
Superman.
Superman.
I think in Japan it's going to be Godzilla versus King Kong. In the US it'll be King Kong versus Godzilla.
Oh, right. They have a different cut for each movie, and depending on where it's showing, the respective monster won.
Yeah. Well, surprisingly, I think most of these King Kong versus Godzilla ones were made by Japanese companies. Surprisingly, these versus ones.
Yeah, if you see all those movies, it's kind of like wrestling, professional wrestling.
Yeah, pretty much.
People in a suit.
Yeah.
That's the storyline, except with human cut into it as well.
Right.
That's the showdown. and like I'm joking, like Kong is about to land the killing blow on Godzilla, but then Godzilla said, his mother's name is like Martha or something like that.
And then
Kong's mother is Martha.
And then they join forces to fight.
Right. Things end up working out that way.
Yeah, right.
Okay. All right. Number 8, Logan. Pulled in about 4 million over the weekend. Continue to hold on well. This is the 6th weekend already. Domestic gross is 218. Worldwide is nearing 600 million.
Going out with a bang.
Billed as the last standalone Wolverine movie. And hey, what a send-off.
Yeah.
All right. Number 9 is Get Out. Pulled in about 4 million. drop off is about 29%. Domestic gross 162 million. Worldwide is 176 million. So like what these movies is doing better here than overseas. Even though it's probably not that wide overseas yet, but then again, these types of movie is more here than overseas. The story wise, this social aspect commentary here is more relevant here.
Right.
All right, and rounding out the top 10 is The Case for Christ is the other wide release. It's opening a little bit over 1,000 theaters. I put in about 3.9 million, which is a bit lower than where I had it. I thought it could do 5 to 7 because it's built by the same people who did God Is Not Dead movies. This is a faith-based movie, and as we said previously, you never know
which movie they're gonna support. They usually only support one every 2 months. Lately, they've been supporting what's the other one? The Shack.
The Shack.
Yeah, so The Shack's at 56 million. So the Christian audience only has so much money to support these films. They already put in their money with The Shack. So too bad for The Case for Christ.
They try to appeal to the same people who went out to watch the movie God Is Not Dead. And it's one of these, I guess it's about a reporter who went out to prove that Jesus is real or not. Kind of the thing with, I don't know, is it God Is Not Dead where they went to court?
Oh.
To prove that God is real or Jesus is real? This one is a reporter going to prove that God is real or not. Kind of similar concept.
The reviews, surprisingly, there aren't many. Only about 7, but surprisingly decent. 71% on Rotten Tomatoes. There's only 7 reviews, but I mean, some of the bigger name, like even Variety, I guess the biggest one there so far is Variety, is giving it a thumbs up. So hey, surprisingly well reviewed so far with only several reviews.
Well, with this opening, it's about I guess typical faith-based film movies. It's not gonna break out. Out of the crowd in this genre, but hey.
But for these films tend to be poorly reviewed, especially ones trying to prove that God is real. This one's actually decently well reviewed.
All right. Okay. All right. So that rounds out the top 10. I just want to make a point about that Triple X movie, The Return of Xander Cage.
Yeah.
Right now, the worldwide gross is 346 million. Domestically, it only pulled in about 45 million. But hey, it's overseas. It's doing quite well.
Yeah, worldwide is doing really well. It's the best of the series, even better than the original one when Vin Diesel was a superstar. So yeah, worldwide is doing really well. A lot of it is because of China too. It made like 150 million or something in China. So that's half of, but it's not just China. It made nearly 300 million worldwide. So it made another 150 outside of China, which is pretty good.
Yeah, as we said, this movie is made for the international market, but I guess we don't know why it didn't work here, because people said that's probably one of the better Triple X movies, even though there's only 3 of them.
Yeah. Well, the second one was a kind of a cash grab, and they couldn't get Vin Diesel, so they got Ice Cube, so people didn't really support it. And there's been so many years between the first Triple X and the second one and this latest one. And the first one wasn't considered a great film anyway, but with that many years off, it's not surprising that they didn't catch on. Because even in established franchises like Rush Hour and a couple other ones, when there's a lot of years in between films, they tend to not open as well.
All right, so anyway, it's a big hit overseas.
Yeah, the great thing with Triple X is the budget is only 85 million. The other film, The Great Wall, made nearly as much worldwide, almost 330 million. And nearly same stats, only made about 45 million domestically. But worldwide is at like 330 million or something, but the budget is 150 million. It's not the bomb that the media is making it out to be. Because of its budget, it probably won't lose money. Like people were saying, the media is saying it's gonna lose at least 60 or 70 million. But the weird thing with these projections is a lot of them I don't think they involve home video when they make these projections.
Yeah, because they they couldn't do it because they need to write their story right.
Well,
there
the
and
thing
right
is,
then.
a lot of it is
Right,
so
they
that
couldn't
they
wait
can
a
do their
year or
tax
two later.
write-off. They can say, hey, we're gonna have a $60 million write-down for this. Because home video is long tail. But I think when it's all said and done, that movie will probably might even make a slight profit.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
years
that's
later, years down the road.
All
right. I think this is a good transition to the lone wide release this weekend, which is Fate of the Furious, the 8th movie in the Fast and Furious franchise. Also starring Vin Diesel.
Yeah, speaking of Vin Diesel. So this one, Vin Diesel is the bad guy.
Well, circumstances made him into a bad guy, right? His companions try to bring him back, and I guess Charlize Theron is the main bad guy. I guess she is this super hacker that is that can control all these automated cars and make them do things that normally wouldn't.
So they hacked Google, they hacked Tesla, they hacked Uber, and took control of all these auto-driving cars.
Self-driving cars.
Self-driving cars. Yeah.
And all the gang is back, right? Dwayne Johnson, Tyrese Gibson, Michelle Rodriguez, Helen Mirren is even in this.
Jason Statham. They're on
Kurt Russell.
Yeah, there aren't many. Yeah, Kurt Russell. There aren't many reviews out yet, but of the, I think the dozen that are out right now, it's actually kind of decent. 75% on Rotten Tomatoes so far. Only about 16 reviews, but hey, that's pretty good, especially for the 8th film in the series. It's a big dumb, what they call big dumb action movie, popcorn movie.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, right? All these movie 8th film, right? They kind of ratchet up everything.
Yeah.
And at some point, they turn into superheroes, and which they kind of.
Well, they turn into superheroes in the last film.
Well, yeah. Anyway,
Furious 7.
They even turn. You're right, but they power up even more.
Yeah. Right? Now, I mean, the last film was when it turned into superhero phase because you see superhero stuff, buildings getting blown up into a million pieces, and Vin Diesel, surviving that kind of mayhem. Building just collapsed on him, and then he just kicked open the door of a car and just kind of patted his shoulder a little bit, the dust off his shoulder a little bit, and came right out of that. That's the film when they became superheroes.
Right. And I guess this movie has a lot of things similar to the Avengers, right? All these automated cars, they're kind of like the robots that's controlled by Ultron,
Age
right?
of Ultron,
Yeah. And, Charlize Theron may not seem like, kind of like Ultron, right? She's kind of like a weak character.
Yeah.
But hey, she got all these
and it's kind of like Civil War, Kind of like Civil War where you have one of the, main guys become a bad guy. Kind of, yeah.
Right. So, there you go. The 8th movie, they all powered up even more from the previous movie. And, you see them sliding on ice. There's a missile there as well. Right. And, whatever. Things happen. Things blow up as well.
Yeah. All they need is Samuel. All they need to do is cast Sam Jackson in it.
Well, they got Kurt Russell. They got Jason Statham in there pulling in. No, Dwayne Johnson is the Samuel Jackson, right?
Yeah, but he's
the FBI guy.
Yeah, that's true. What number are you putting out for this?
Okay. Fast, it's on this upward trajectory, like from starting from Fast 5, right? 86 million opening, Fast 6, 97 million opening, Fast 7, 147 million opening.
Well, Fast 7 has the added bonus of, not added bonus, Paul Walker's death.
Sure.
I mean,
but it's on that way, even though.
Yeah, we can't underestimate it. It's on that trajectory, but not that big of a leap because Fast and Furious was 71 million. Then it went to Fast and Furious 6, nearly 100 million, and then it made a huge jump to nearly 150 million in Fast 7. So Paul Walker's death did add a huge bonus to it, kind of like what Heath Ledger did for The Dark Knight. And we saw that in The Dark Knight Returns that it didn't open as well as The Dark Knight. We might see something similar here. I don't know.
Okay. So from Fast 5 to Fast 6, the opening is about 11 million difference.
Um,
So
alright.
assuming 7 is the outlier, because of Paul Walker's death.
Mm-hmm.
How about 120?
120.
Yep, 120 million.
Yeah, I'm kind of around there too. Yeah, 110, 120.
Okay, 110, 120 for you, 120 for well, so let's round up to 100, 120 around
Yeah,
there. So well, the thing is like it couldn't keep on going up forever, right?
yeah,
At some point where the story will get so ridiculous
yeah,
that people will get tired of it. This one, right?
right.
And with the Fast and Furious franchise, there is this story, um, about I guess family trying to keeping everybody together,
Mm,
and there's also these things that they're trying to do with cars,
yeah,
right? All these stunts they're trying to do with cars.
right.
Think that at some point everything will get so ridiculous. The storyline, the cars like Transformer, the car punching people in the face.
Yeah, eventually this will. You think
Things like
there'll
that.
be a mashup between this and Transformers?
Who
That's what
knows?
you're saying, right?
No, I'm just saying the action will get so
Yeah.
ridiculous that people will say, that's kind of stupid.
Well, I'm not sure.
They did
Yeah,
what they could with the series.
yeah,
That's what I'm saying. That they did what they could.
yeah. You're kind of right there. But I think it's like the Avengers. Like after the first Avengers, that tends to be you seem to hit this max height peak, and then Avengers 2 didn't do as well. Even Civil War, which was super hyped up, had great reviews, great word of mouth, but still didn't reach anywhere near the level of the first Avengers. And I feel like Furious 7, especially with Paul Walker's death, is probably the franchise's zenith. I don't think it's going to reach that kind of peak.
Yeah, well, yeah, which could be. You could be right.
Yeah.
You could be right.
So 120, yeah, we're kind of in the same range.
Oh, we'll see. All right, that's it for this week. We'll see how this movie will do Monday.
All right. Okay, see you guys next week.